ලංකා Education and Research Network ආයතනයේ 30 වන සංවත්සරික සැමරුම සඳහා අතිගරු ජනාධිපති මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මැතිතුමන්ගේ සම්ප්‍රාප්තිය ඒ සම්ප්‍රාප්තියත් සමග අපි සූදානම් චිරාගත සම්ප්‍රදාන කූලව මේ පොල්තෙල් පහන් වැටි පහන් සිළු බාටපත් කිරීමට ආරාධනය අතිගරු ජනාධිපති මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මැතිතුමන්ට ඒත් සමගම නගර සැලසුම් ජල සම්පාදන සහ උසස් අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍ය රවුෆ් හකීම් මැතිතුමන් ගරු සුජීව සේනසිංහ මැතිතුමන් VCDC ආයතනයේ සභාපති මහාචාර්ය සම්පත් අමෘතුග මැතිතුමන් ඩයලොග් ආසියාට ආයතනයේ නියෝජනය කරමින් අපගේ ආරාධනය රමණන් ඩී වෛරකරන් මැතිතුමන්ට එත් සමගම ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම් ආයතනයේ නියෝජනය කරමින් එහි සමූහ සභාපති PG කුමාරසිංහ සිරිසේන මැතිතුමන් LEARN ගරු සභාපති මහාචාර්ය PSM ගුණරත්න මැතිතුමන් LEARN හි සමාරම්භය සනටුවන් කිරීමට වැඩි දායකත්වයක් දැක්වූ මහාචාර්ය අභය ඉඳුරුව මැතිතුමන් would like to call upon the president of the Thai Incorporation Center South Korea Mr. Yong Won Chung also to join with us to do the honors in lighting this very special lamp and consultant to LEARN Professor Roshan Regal. චිරාගත සම්ප්‍රදාන කූලව මෙසේ පොල්තෙල් පහන් වැටි පහන් සිළු බඩපත් කිරීමෙන් අනතුරුව ආරාධනය සම්භාවනීය සිළුම අමුත්තන්ට පැමිණෙන්න ඔබට හිමි අසුන් වෙත ලංකා Education and Research Network සමාගමේ 30 වන සංවත්සරික සැමරුම මේ සමාරම්භය සනටුවන් කිරීම සඳහා ආරාධනය නැවතත් ඔබ සිළු දෙනාටම නැගී සිටිමු අපි සිළු දෙනාම ජාතිය අභිමානය ජාතික ගීය සඳහා
Sundara Siri Bari
very much everyone. Please be seated. වසර 1989 දී සමස්ත දිවයිනේම විශ්වවිද්‍යාල එකිනෙක යාකරමින් ජාලයක් ඉදිකිරීම සඳහා වූ විශේෂ යෝජනාවක් විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ප්‍රතිපාදන කොමිසම් සභාව විසින් එකල උසස් අධ්‍යාපන විද්‍යා හා තාක්ෂණ අමාත්‍යාංශය හරහා රජයට ඉදිරිපත් කරනු ලැබුවා. අන්තර්ජාල පහසුකම් පවා නොතිබුණු එම අවධියේදී මෙම සමස්ත ක්‍රියාවලිය ඉතා බැරෑරුම් ක්‍රියාවලියක් ලෙස දිස්වුවද වසර 1990 දී මහාචාර්ය අභය ඉඳුරුව මහතාණන්ගේ මඟ පෙන්වීම යටතේ මෙම යෝජනාව සාක්ෂාත් කර ගැනීමට හැකියාව ලැබුණා. පසු කාලීනව මෙම ජාලය ලංකා අධ්‍යාපන සහ පර්යේෂණ ජාලය එසේත් නොමැතිනම් ලංකා Education and Research Network ඔබ අප හොඳින් හඳුනන LEARN ලෙස ප්‍රචලිත වූ අතර ආරම්භයේදී විශ්වවිද්‍යාල 3ක් පමණක් මේ සඳහා සම්බන්ධ වූ අතර මේ වන විට සමස්ත දිවයින පුරා පිහිටි අධ්‍යාපන සහ උසස් අධ්‍යාපන ආයතන 45ක් LEARN හරහා සුපෝෂණය වනවා. ක්‍රිෂ්මා.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to each of you to the 30th anniversary celebrations of LEARN. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today LEARN, or Lanka Education and Research Network, marks 3 glorious decades of networking, and how privileged we are to be joined by each of you at the celebrations of this landmark occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, LEARN was founded in 1989 under the leadership of Professor Abhay Induruva. And since its inception, the LEARN network has come a long way. Today, it has been incorporated as a company and is the NREN, or the National Research and Education Network of Sri Lanka. It currently offers connectivity and various other services to 45 educational and research institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, today, as we mark the many significant milestones of LEARN over the last 3 decades, we are delighted to now officially begin the momentous celebration of 30 years of our existence. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, as we commence our event to now officially deliver the welcome address, it's our pleasure to now invite on stage the chairman of LEARN and also the vice chairman of the University Grants Commission. With your applause, let's now join in welcoming on stage Professor P.S.M. Gunaratna.
ඔබ සියලු දෙනාම මෙම 30 වන සංවත්සරික සැමරුම සඳහා පිළිගැනීමට අපගේ ගෞරවනීය ආරාධනය මහාචාර්ය P.S.M. ගුණරත්න මැතිතුමන්ට.
Someone has stated that the problem with this generation is that they believe in social media more than people. I'm sure we, Sri Lankan academics, are also in the same wavelength today due to the reliable connectivity provided by the Lanka Education and Research Network, LEARN. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, Maithripala Sirisena, President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Honorable Rauf Hakim, Minister of City Planning, Water Supply and Higher Education. Professor Abhay Induruwa, founder of LEARN and keynote speaker of the today's event. Mr. Yong Hwan Chun, President of the Tain Corporation Center, South Korea. Mr. Kumarasinghe Sirisena, Group Chairman of Sri Lanka Telecom. Respected Vice Chancellors, LEARN Directors, Professor Roshan Rigel, Consultant, LEARN, distinguished university dons and other staff, LEARN team, IT professionals and invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to address you and deliver the welcome address at this occasion of Lanka Education Research Network celebrating its 30th anniversary. So we are organizing this anniversary in a big hotel. So despite the directive of the president, I think this is once in 30 years' time. So this is registered as a private limited company contributed by all the universities, but through its international project, it's earned a lot of foreign exchange to this country. Therefore, you will excuse us to organize this function at this, because after 30 years of its operation in this hotel. LEARN, which acts as a national research and education network in the country, has been continuously providing a reliable system of connectivity to Sri Lankan academic and research community, facilitating and enhancing the capacity for the interconnection among members in the community and members of the similar networks of the world, while continuously upgrading network infrastructure, keeping up with the pace of the rapid development in the field of information and communication technology. Your Excellency, it was more than 30 years ago, some circles of the academics community of this country, with the knowledge of the subject, emphasized the needs of a national research and education network with its own domain name. I am very happy to have today on Professor Abe Indruwa as one of the founding members of the LEARN community. Ladies and gentlemen, due to pioneering work of a few such visionary academics, including Professor Indruwa of the University of Moratuwa, Colombo and Peradeniya, who could think ahead of time, LEARN was initially started as a project. Over the passage of time, LEARN earned the due recognition from the University Grants Commission, UGC, and 15 universities, and its organizational form was changed to a company by guarantee. UGC and the 15 universities under its purview are the members of this company. Your Excellency, the last 4 years, during which I have served as the chairman of the LEARN, I have witnessed a series of various initiatives ventured by the LEARN to provide additional or improved services to its member community without additional cost to them. Those initiatives will be discussed by Professor Roshan Rigel, the consultant of the network. LEARN is working closely with similar networks in other countries. So representing 10 network, today our Korean counterpart is with us today at this meeting. Through its international partnership, LEARN has been able to provide international training to staff and relevant university employees. Further, LEARN regularly arrange training programs with the aim of continuous professional development of the relevant staff of universities. Ladies and gentlemen, above all, LEARN has been able to create academic identity for the university community. We, those who are in the academia, know the value of this identity when we communicate with the rest of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, now let me turn to my cardinal responsibility of welcoming special dignitaries and this august audience to this function. Your Excellency, the President, your presence here today at this occasion, the LEARN celebrating its 30th anniversary, is a great honor for all of us in the LEARN community. By and large, this community resembles academic community of this country. Your Excellency, during last 4.5 years, your government's contribution to the higher education sector is unparalleled. Never in the history had a single government delivered this much for the development of the higher education sector in this country. These development initiatives are reflected in the increases of number of students enrolled into the system, number of new faculties inaugurated, growth of number of academic and non-academic staff in the sector, and also in the upward revision of salaries of university academics and non-academic staff. Moreover, Your Excellency, your government doubled the amount paid as Mahapula scholarships and bursaries to the students and added a large number of new student hostels to the system. Enrollment expansion of universities were mostly targeted the disciplines necessary for economic development of the country, such as medical, paramedical, engineering, ICT, technology, which are very expensive to set up. It's not like setting up a faculty of arts, management, or education, so that during these last 4 years, we were able to set up 12 technology faculties, 1 engineering faculty, 2 medical faculties. And also, we were able to increase the number of enrollment into other medical faculties, other engineering faculties as well, and also IT faculties. Your Excellency, we warmly welcome you today to this august audience as a leader whose government contributed to change the landscape of the higher education sector of this country, with the highest investment ever did in this sector by a single government. Your gracious presence here is a huge encouragement to the LEARN community. Ladies and gentlemen, the development of LEARN is also parallel to the development of the higher education sector. LEARN can't have a development progress without the development of the higher education sector. LEARN is demand-driven institution. Demand for LEARN services rapidly increased during this period. Next, I would like to extend my heartiest welcome to Honorable Rauf Hakim, Minister of City Planning, Water Supply and Higher Education on behalf of LEARN community. Our Honorable Minister is a very understanding personality and has been working very closely with the UGC and the university community. Despite your busy schedules, your presence is at this occasion certainly adding colors to this function. Today, our Honorable Secretary Priyantha Maya Dunne and my chairman, Professor Mohanda Silva, just asked me to convey his messages, congratulatory message to the LEARN, because Professor Mohanda Silva just returned last night from overseas visit, and today morning also he had the series of meeting at the UGC. So due to that busy schedule, he was not able to. Even our secretary is equally busy today with a lot of other work. So that both gentlemen asked me to convey their congratulatory messages to the LEARN's 30th anniversary. Then I would like to warmly welcome Vice Chancellors attending this function today. All the Vice Chancellors, we had a very, very important meeting in the morning at the UGC. That is about creating another set of limited companies limited by guarantee for the purpose of research, commercialization, and innovations. So that we have got the legal clearance from the LG's department, and today we had the initial discussion with the Vice Chancellor for this purpose, because today the Sri Lanka happened to be the Sri Lanka in terms of per capita income, we were ranked as the upper middle income country. So that people talked about that now we are getting into a middle income trap. It is very difficult to go beyond this. Why? Because now maybe we cannot, as a nation, we cannot expect soft loan from the world. Maybe we have to go by commercial terms. We have a very huge debt burden, so that then we have to find, to get out of this trap, internal mechanism. So the universities also, we want universities to play their role in this direction. As a result of that, we discussed with the World Bank, and World Bank help us with the money, projects funded for the purpose of commercialization, innovation and commercialization. So that the universities have to work with the private sector, and they have to address the need of the private sector, as well as they have to create their own innovations, and they have to commercialize. Up to now, we did a lot of research, and it didn't go beyond university research, journals, and all that. So that, therefore, today, with the Secretary's help, we got the clearance from the legal department, so that we were allowed to create kind of company limited by guarantee, not for the purpose of making profit, but for the purpose of university research output to make its commercialized product and give it to the private sector. Today this is important. All the vice chancellors attended this meeting, and all the vice chancellors' time is taken by today's planned meetings, this morning meeting to this, and I am very thankful to all the vice chancellors attending the morning meeting and coming here straight after that. Then also I would like to welcome our friend, Mr. Kumarasiri Sirisena, the group chairman of the SLT, because we are one of the biggest client of the SLT in terms of data and what is this network connectivity. And so that this, I think, growth of the LEARN is partly reflected in the growth in SLT as well. Then, Mr. Chairman, your presence here is very important for us. We consider you as an important partner, and thank you very much for your gracious presence at this occasion. Also, I would like to welcome Professor Abe Indruva, who is the founder of LEARN 30 years ago. He's thinking ahead of time. Today, you can be very happy with this growth of the LEARN. LEARN is now today, is not only serving to the 15 conventional universities, demand for LEARN service is coming from every corner. Now even we have connected to the almost all recognized degree awarding, state degree awarding institutions. I hope in near future, these services can be available to other institutions as well. Then I would like to also welcome Mr. Yong Huan Chung, President of the Tian Corporate. The Tian Network and we, LEARN Network, we have very close relationships, and we have joint projects as well, so that coming from Korea to here for this LEARN 30th anniversary, it signifies much of our relationship. Thank you very much for your presence here today. Then also that headed by vice chancellors, LEARN connectivity is managed by maybe the ICT staff of the universities. I think they are here. I warmly welcome all ICT staff who are representing their universities who are here today for this function. And also, LEARN's backbone is our consultant, Professor Roshan Rigel from University of Peradeniya. I welcome you to this function as well. Then also all the university dons and the staff and private sector representative and IT professionals who are here also welcome for this institution. Ladies and gentlemen, now I am coming to the end of my speech. So let me quote Bill Gates before concluding. I quote, "The internet is becoming the town square for the global village tomorrow. Unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, you would agree with me that LEARN has already done it for us. Let me express my heartiest gratitude towards all those who have contributed to the success of the LEARN story. Let me express a big thank you all, including current team of the LEARN as the Vice Chairman of the UGC on behalf of the University Grants Commission. Thank you.
අපගේ ප්‍රණාමය ලංකා Education and Research Network ගරු සභාපති මහාචාර්ය PSM ගුණරත්න මැතිතුමන් මේ 30 වන සංවත්සරික සමරුමට ඔබ සියලු දෙනා පිළිගැනීම නිමිත්තෙන්.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, as we mark our 30th anniversary in style, we're delighted to present before you a grace-filled and exquisite welcome performance, adding grace and splendor to our evening. Let's take a look.
ලංකා Education and Research Network හි 30 වන සංවත්සරයේ නිමිත්තෙන් නිමවුණු විශේෂ සංවත්සරික පුස්තකය අපගේ මෙම අවස්ථාවට සහභාගී වෙන ප්‍රධාන ආරාධමුත්තාරන් වන අධිකරු ජනාධිපතිතුමන් වෙත පිරිනැමීමයි දැන් ඉෂ්ට සිද්ධ වන්නේ. ආරාධනය අධිකරු ජනාධිපති මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මැතිතුමන්ටත් එත් සමගම එතුමන් වේදිකාවට කැඳවා ගැනීම සඳහා ගරු අමාත්‍ය රවුෆ් හකීම් මැතිතුමන්ටත් ආරාධනා කරනවා වේදිකාවට. මේ විශේෂ සංවත්සරික පුස්තකය අතිගරු ජනාධිපති මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මැතිතුමන් වෙත පිරිනමනු ලබන්නේ LEARN හි ගරු සභාපති මහාචාර්ය PSM ගුණරත්න මැතිතුමන් විසින්.
Ladies and gentlemen, today Learn is proud to announce the launch of a special edition of a book commemorating our 30th anniversary celebrations. This commemorative book reviews the past and present accomplishments of this esteemed NREN. And we now have the presentation of the book. Let's put our hands together as we mark the very first issue being presented to His Excellency the President, Maithripala Sirisena.
දැන් අතිගරු ජනාධිපති මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මැතිතුමන් විසින් LEARN සමාරම්භය සනටුවන් කිරීමට අප වී දායකත්වයේ දැක්වූ පාර්ශවයන් ඇගීමට ලක් කිරීම සිදු කරනවා ඇති. මුලින්ම මේ ඇගීම් සම්මානය පිරිනමනු ලබන්නේ මහාචාර්ය අභය ඉඳුරුව මැතිතුමන්.
Friends, we now have the honor of recognizing the role of each of our founders in bringing Learn to life. We are now about to present a token of appreciation to one of the founders, Professor Abhaya Induruva. Let's put our hands together as we appreciate his role in founding Learn. Thank you to Professor Abhaya Induruva.
මීළඟ ඇගීම් සම්මානය ආචාර්ය අජන්ත අතුකෝරළ.
Let's put our hands together for Dr. Ajanta Atukorala, one other founder of Learn.
මහාචාර්ය ගිහාන් ඩයස්, ආචාර්ය රුවන් වීරසිංහ, ආචාර්ය නිමල් රත්නායක, එත් සමගම හර්ෂ විජේවර්ධන මහතාණන් දැක්වූ දායකත්වයේ මේ අවස්ථාවේ අපි සනිටුවන් කරමින් අපගේ ප්‍රණාමය අධිකරු ජනාධිපති මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මැතිතුමන්ටත් එත් සමගම ගරු අමාත්‍ය රවුෆ් හකීම් මැතිතුමන්ටත් සමගම LEARN හි ගරු සභාපති මහාචාර්ය PSM ගුණරත්න මැතිතුමන්ටත් මේ අවස්ථාවට සහභාගී වීම නිමිත්තෙන් LEARN අපගේ 30 වන සංවත්සරයට සපමිනි අපගේ ප්‍රධාන ආරාධ අමුත්තානන් වන අධිකරු ජනාධිපති මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මැතිතුමන්ට අපගේ ප්‍රණාමය. මීළඟට මෙම 30 වන සංවත්සරික සැමරුම ආමන්ත්‍රණය කිරීම සඳහා අපගේ ගෞරවනීය ආරාධනය නගර සැලසුම් ජල සම්පාදන සහ උසස් අධ්‍යාපන ගරු අමාත්‍ය රවුෆ් හකීම් මැතිතුමනි ඔබතුමන්ට කරන ආරාධනය මේ උත්සව සභාව ආමන්ත්‍රණය කිරීම සඳහා.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're delighted to now hear a few words from the Minister of City Planning, Water Supply and Higher Education. Let's put our hands together for Honorable Rauf Hakim.
The President of the Lanka Education and Research Network and Vice Chairman of the University Grants Commission, Professor PSM Gunratna, Professor Induruva, the founder chairman of this network, learned Vice Chancellors, directors of various institutes of universities which are members of this prestigious network, dear academics, ladies and gentlemen. 30 years ago, when this organization was formed, nobody would have imagined that this would become such a precious and important contributor to the country's well-being, and particularly in getting the best of our university system for the betterment of our nation. When in the early stages people had envisaged the university education as it started as the Colombo Medical College and subsequently developed into a vast network of universities now spread across the entire length and breadth of this country. that we would be at a juncture where in the region our universities have brought us so much of pride in improving the quality of our education. What is important is for us, as we have now grown into an important organization, the Universities Grants Commission, the government and the ministry have realized the importance of a form of backward integration with the business world. Towards that, the R&D component, the research and development component in our university system is being encouraged to work with the commercial entities of the country. Several have endeavored to make the maximum use of this invitation, and this has been going on for the past several years. And there could be much more that we could achieve by every university embarking on trying to have collaborative programs with the business community of the country. The corporate sector is quite willing to embrace the university system so that they will have productive graduates who would serve their own needs in the job market. So towards that end, much more needs to be done. And we have, as a matter of fact, with the help of the World Bank programs, have given more emphasis for this integration with the business world. And that is the way to go. And with the STEM education segment being given all the encouragement, and we are also looking at the humanities and social sciences area to improve the marketability of the graduates that we are producing. Your organization, which has very quietly grown into this wonderful network and is celebrating 30 years of its completion, I'm sure you can contribute to this important segment where we get the best of our university system together with the inputs that are being made, with the networking that you are doing with the outside world. So we have been encouraging our universities to use up every available opportunity. I have emphasized time and again, and tomorrow myself and the chairman of the UGC are going over to neighboring Maldives to participate in the SAARC Higher Education Ministers Conference. There are two. The theme appears to be to focus on this aspect so that we in the region will have a closer integration and cooperation in developing by learning from each other. I do not want to take much of your time, but would like to once again emphasize here, since all the Vice Chancellors and others are present here, UGC has been encouraging you. Please try and make use of the 4.5% intake of international students wherever possible. It's not very easy, but it would certainly help you to improve your ranking. And we have ourselves introduced the Quality Assurance Commission, Quality Assurance and Accreditation Commission Bill, which has also become another controversial subject today. But please understand that all this has been developed over a period of time. There have been stakeholder discussion for several long years, certainly we can engage and discuss further if you want improvements, if you want adjustments in this, but time is of essence, and it is important that we have a proper quality assurance and accreditation system outside the UGC, so that it would help our ranking possibilities when it comes to international university system. So with those words, I once again congratulate the founders as well as the current members involved in this valuable exercise to continue a good work. And it is indeed my good fortune that I happen to be the minister at this juncture, though I am the fourth minister during a 5-year term. Thank you.
Honorable Rauf Hakim would like to request you to remain on stage. Honorable Minister, if you can come back to the stage, as we are ready to present you also with this anniversary publication of the Lanka Education and Research Network. Once again, would like to call upon the chairman of LEARN, Professor P.S.M. Gunaratne, to do the honors in presenting this very special anniversary publication, which has been published to mark the 30th anniversary of the Lanka Education and Research Network, LEARN. Come on, everybody, give it for the Honorable Minister of City Planning, Water Supply and Higher Education, Mr. Rauf Hakim.
Ladies and gentlemen, at our 30th anniversary celebrations of LEARN, we have the honor of listening to a keynote address this evening from the founder of LEARN, Professor Abhay Induruwa. Please allow me now to introduce to you our keynote speaker this evening. Professor Induruwa, aptly known as the father of Internet in Sri Lanka, founded the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Moratuwa in 1985, which was the first and the only department of its kind in a Sri Lankan university at that time, and he served as its head until 1998. In 1989, he pioneered and served as the principal investigator of Project LEARN, which has developed into the academic internet in Sri Lanka. He also administered the .lk domain since its first registration in 1990 until 1998. In recognition of his significant contribution to the growth of connectivity and use of internet in Sri Lanka, and for pioneering LEARN, the first IPWAN in Sri Lanka, Professor Induruwa was inducted to the Internet Hall of Fame in 2014, an honorary Lifetime Achievement Award administered by the Internet Society. Recognizing his significant contribution to the development of networking and internet in Sri Lanka, Professor Induruwa was also honored with the Internet Pioneers Award by the Internet Society Sri Lanka chapter at the celebration of 20 years of Internet in Sri Lanka in June 2015. And for his exceptional contribution to the digital arena, Professor Induruwa received a Lifetime Achievement from Sri Lanka Telecom in June 2017. Professor Induruwa served on the Internet Society's Internet Hall of Fame Advisory Board from 2016 until 2018. And with this distinguished introduction, ladies and gentlemen, it's now our pleasure to hear the keynote address from the founder of LEARN. Let's put our hands together for Professor Abhay Induruwa.
Honorable Rauf Hakim, Minister of Planning, Town Planning, Water Supplies and Higher Education. Chairman LEARN, Professor Gunaratne, Professor Roshan Regal, and staff of LEARN. Mr. Chong Hong Yuan, President of Tien Cooperation Center, Vice Chancellors, stakeholders of LEARN, my colleagues and friends, distinguished invitees. We have gathered today to celebrate the 30th anniversary of LEARN, and I'm deeply honored to be here with you to celebrate this event. I'm very grateful to His Excellency Maithripala Sirisena for taking time off from his very busy schedule to grace this occasion and to show his, giving us encouragement and show his enthusiasm. Also, the Honorable Minister Rauf Hakim to have again spent time with us and giving a very encouraging speech. That only goes to demonstrate the importance the highest level of political leadership in the country is placing on education, science, and research. I'm thankful to the organizers of this celebration event for inviting me to deliver the keynote speech. I feel privileged to be in a position to give you a first-hand account of how we built LEARN, the first IP WAN in the country, and brought internet connectivity to Sri Lanka. As you would have imagined, this was not without challenges. LEARN is a term I coined in 1999 to conceptualize the idea of an experimental national data communication network for Sri Lanka, to connect computers in all universities. We didn't have many at that time. Honorable Minister will remember that we had only few, but now we have a lot more, and we heard from the Vice Chairman UGC the number of faculties and new technology institutions that they have opened in the last few years, and research centers in the country to be able to exchange data and to connect to international networks, to be able to easily communicate and share knowledge with our peers around the world. Now remember, this was a time without Facebook, WhatsApp, Viber, and Skype that give you instant communication these days. Now, the LEARN stood at that time in 1989, as the Lanka Experimental Academic and Research Network. Of course, it was experimental at that time. We didn't have any data communication networks in the country, so therefore, we were trying to see if we can get something to be operational in the country. Now, the idea of LEARN was to empower our academics and research staff in the university, along with our students, to embrace the benefits of ICT and to be able to promote research within the country and to share their knowledge and data with their peers around the world. Now, at this time, some of the developed countries like the USA, UK, Europe, Australia had already built their own computer networks. The internet was popular in the USA, whereas others had their own homegrown networks. Especially in the UK, they had JANET, the Joint Academic Network, which was based on their own protocol set, based on X25 protocols. I spent a sabbatical term at the University of Kiel in 1989, and I focused on understanding how JANET can be deployed in developing countries. So it was during this time the LEARN proposal was submitted to the Sri Lankan government through the University Grants Commission and the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology. By this time, Sri Lankan postgraduate students, mainly studying in the USA and UK, have started a bulletin board service. They called it SLNet, to share news about Sri Lanka amongst the community outside Sri Lanka, who didn't have WhatsApp and Twitter and all the other technologies to share information. Typically, the news was captured from Reuters, Associated Press, United Press International, etc. Now, this service was run by volunteers and supported by donations made by well-wishers. A more formal funding arrangement was put in place when LUCNet, Lanka Academic Network, was formed as a not-for-profit organization registered in the USA. Professor Gihandas and others took the lead on this. Now, our policy preparation started much earlier, in the first half of the 80s decade. This happened at the highest political level when His Excellency, the late J.R. Jayawardena, as then president, appointed a committee to prepare a national computer policy for Sri Lanka. And I was very fortunate to contribute to it. On the recommendations of this report, the Computer and Information Technology Council, SINTEC, was established in 1984, reporting directly to the President. Professor Mohan Munisingh was appointed as the chairman of SINTEC, and I was appointed to the board of the SINTEC Council. I held the portfolios of computer education, standardization, public sector, and very importantly, data communication and computer networking. Now, in 1984, around the same time, the UGC also commissioned a British Council Overseas Development Administration funded study carried out by experts from the United Kingdom to study and recommend how computer science teaching can be developed within our Sri Lankan university system. And on their recommendation, the UGC established the Sri Lanka Inter-University Computing Committee, known as SLI-UCC. I served on the committee representing the University of Moratuwa at that time. The Vice Chancellor of Moratuwa University, Professor Willie Mendes, appointed a committee in 1984 to draw up a computer policy for the university. And again, I was serving on that committee, which formulated the very early policies for university computerization. So by the end of 1984, policy frameworks at government level, ministerial, and university levels were already and in place. Around 1985, we demonstrated the first recorded remote login to a computer in Sri Lanka. Now, as we see on the diagram, I can't use the point on the screen, we used a 300 baud modem to connect using a Sri Lanka Telecom, at that time it was Department of Telecommunication, telephone line to connect a TRS-80 multi-user computer system running not Windows but Xenix operating system to a similar computer at the University of Colombo. And we were able to bring a login prompt from the Colombo computer onto the screen at Moratuwa University. And this was a very significant achievement and a milestone in our venture into the computer networking in Sri Lanka. Now, in comparison, if you consider the network speeds, today you're talking of gigabit speeds, but if I take 3 megabits per second as a typical average speed, that is 10,000 times faster compared to the 300 baud line that we had in 1985. With a generous grant from the Japanese government through the JICA, the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, we equipped the newly established Computer Science and Engineering Department at Moratuwa. The first Ethernet LAN in a university was established in 1989 at the University of Moratuwa using these funds provided by the Japanese government. And we connected a DEC Microvax 3600 mini computer, two of them, to a local area network, which had 50 personal computers running Windows 3.11 and novel network software. Now, that was the only way we could run a multi-user computer system connecting PCs to a mini computer system running Ultrix 32, again, another Unix variant. Now, this, as I said, was the first academic Ethernet in Sri Lanka. Now, with this backdrop, my exposure to computer networking outside Sri Lanka, at Kiel and other countries, and also knowing what was going on in Sri Lanka, especially at Moratuwa, building the local area networks. With that as the backdrop, I submitted the LEARN proposal in April 1989 to the UGC and to the Minister of Higher Education. Although we had support at the highest political level, unfortunately, we didn't have much financial support. So implementing LEARN had its own fair share of challenges. In 1990, the UGC SLI-UCC declared that a computer communication network, in fact, this diagram came from my original proposal. At that time, we didn't have very good printers and so on, so you can see the quality of that diagram. The idea was to connect in a backbone just 3 computer centers, Colombo and Open University to Moratuwa. And of course, it was extending it to other countries through international direct dialing because we didn't have any data communication links between Sri Lanka and the rest of the world. So the idea was to have dial-up links and also to other universities to somehow dial into Moratuwa through a modem bank. In 1990, on the 28th of May, the SLI-UCC made a very crucial decision. They declared that a computer communication network facility must be developed in order to promote inter-university cooperation. Now, everything was ready, policy, frameworks, and understanding, and all the agreements were there, but again, we didn't have much money. Now, I was very happy to hear the UGC Vice Chairman saying that LEARN is part and parcel of the academic and research community today. But unfortunately, back in 1989, I was a lone voice, and my contemporaries were fighting for chalk for blackboards. That was the state of the economy and the country at that time. But with all that, we were able to get something going in the form of a service. And I leveraged my position as the head of computer science engineering at Moratuwa and allocated some resources. And we brought up something called LEARN Mail. Now, of course, today, email is very commonplace, and everyone take it for granted. But in 1989 or 1990, when we started, June 1990, this was a service we provided on the basis of transferring mail 3 times a week. So if you send a mail, you have to wait at least 3-4 days before you get a reply. Not instant, not always on connected internet. But that was a big step forward because if you remember, those who are old enough for me, like me, to remember, it took several days for even an airmail letter to go from here to some other country. And the fax service was not there. The telex was the only way of electronic communication. But again, you don't use a telex message to send a complete document. So email was the preferred communication media between universities and research centers in most other countries at the time. So we started this LearnMail, the first internet-based email service in the country. LUCNet, the Lanka Academic Network, which I mentioned earlier, agreed to bear the cost of transferring the mail from University of Moratuwa to a node in the US. It was in Indiana, and that was connected to another node in Purdue, and that basically distributed mail to other countries. There are research networks through the internet, and when internet was not there, like for example, UK, Janet was the connection, and to other corporate networks like IBM, DECnet, the UCP network, and so on. Now, prior to this, the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Modern Technologies in 1987-88 period tried to introduce what is known as the Mallard mailbox email system. As you see, Sir Arthur was a major proponent of this service, but unfortunately, it was an early invention, but it was proprietary. So therefore, it did not catch up, it did not succeed. Whereas the next year, or 2 years later, when we introduced LearnMail, it was based on all open source software, as well as protocols, as well as hardware. So therefore, I think that was the necessary step at that time. Now, after the introduction of LearnMail, the popularity meant that more resources are needed. And by this time, the pressure groups are mounting. The people who were happy to wait 3 days to get a reply for their email, they wanted a bit more speed up process in the transfer of email. And the SynTech, the Computer and Information Technology Council, came to the rescue. They provided some money to buy a high-speed, good quality modem. And they gave me 12,500 rupees. With that, we bought a good modem, and we were able to speed up our transfer, as well as LUCNet was happy to provide money for the international connection. So by this time, we had reached another milestone. LearnMail was now exchanged 3 times a day rather than 3 times a week. In 1992, we connected Moratuwa servers to the internet via Singapore using Sri Lanka Telecom's data pack service. That was the only data service available through the Sri Lanka Telecom at that time, which was based on packet switching, but using a dedicated lease line, which was very expensive. So therefore, the provision of this data pack service was very expensive. We used it to demonstrate to interested parties, or to market the idea of Learn and to get their support. At the same time, we also helped research groups within certain universities who had a need, who could justify that there was a need for immediate connection to an overseas network. So we used the provision through SLT data pack service at that time. In 1995, again, some of you might remember, we had the Southeast Asia Regional Computer Confederation Conference in Colombo, which was attended by something like 200 foreign delegates and about 500-600 Sri Lankan delegates. And I was able to demonstrate, using this data pack service connection to Singapore, the visible human project of the US National Library of Medicine. Now, this was in around the same time that in the US, they decided to slice a human body to 1 millimeter thick slices and to collect about 1,700 slices in a database. Now, the idea was to make it available to any researcher who's doing research on human anatomy to understand the body. Now, I was able to demonstrate the usefulness of this to the attending medical practitioners from our local universities, as well as the delegates from foreign universities. Now, around this time, 1994-95, the popularity of Internet Protocol-based networking, that is IP-based networking, or the Internet in the world outside the USA was rising. And in 1992, I resubmitted the proposal, now this time reformulated to incorporate Internet Protocol. From there on, we implemented stage by stage the components of LEARN that we have today expanded to I don't know how many times fold. Professor Larry Landweber, he was collecting data about connectivity, internet connectivity around the world. And as you can see, 1991, we were if you look at the legend, the purple color is basically the proper internet connectivity, and the people who did not have in other colors, for example, red is no connectivity. Now, Sri Lanka in 1991 is green because we had this UUCP or Unix to Unix copy program exchanging email between Sri Lanka and the rest of the world. Now, this is the time when the UGC came to our rescue in a big way. And in 1993, the SLIUCC agreed to fund LEARN by granting 3 million rupees. And this was the time we talked to Sri Lanka Telecom, and they were able to, they didn't have any data circuits operating in the country at that time. So it was a first to them as well as to us. We commissioned 3 wireless radio links between Moratuwa, Colombo, and the Open University in a triangle connection. And these wireless radio links were operating at 64 kilobits per second. Now, kilobits per second is a unit you don't hear these days. You talk about megabits and gigabits and terabits. But we were operating at 64 kilobits per second. Now, again, remember, this was a time without Facebook and streaming and WhatsApp and so on. So therefore, that was good enough bandwidth to start with. Another major breakthrough came in 1995 when, again, Sri Lanka Telecom, as the operator of all the telecom services in the country at the time, connected Lanka Internet Services, the first private internet service provider in the country, to the internet. Again, the dedicated line across the sea from here through many seas, Indian Ocean, Atlantic, and so on, to the United States, was again a 64 kilobits per second dedicated lease line. So the entire Sri Lanka was connected to the rest of the world using 64 kilobits per second. Now, in 1995, when that happened, Larry Landweber's diagram changed its color. So Sri Lanka is now purple, meaning that we have placed our position within the internet world or the internet space in the world. Now, 1989, by all accounts, is a very interesting year. Well, submission of the LEARN proposal to the government, the birth of the World Wide Web at CERN, the Center for Nuclear Research, European Center for Nuclear Research in Switzerland. That's where the World Wide Web was born. Now, that happened a month before I submitted the proposal to Sri Lankan government in March 1989. So Sir Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. Around the world, many other things happened. The first internet service provider. Now, we again take it for granted. Today, we connect to whatever service we want, but there were no internet service providers in the world. And the very first one didn't come from the USA, the United States of America. It came from Australia, from Perth. In 1989, Dialyx was the very first internet service provider to provide public internet access. Berlin Wall comes down in the same year, and very interestingly to our community, the first recorded case of cyber espionage. I'm sure many of you have heard about this story, how an astronomer turned computer scientist, Clifford Stoll, managed to track down and catch a group of spies. Now, it all started, I'm sure there are lots of sysadmins and computer network admins in the audience, and everything started when they noticed a $0.75, that's 75 cents discrepancy in the accounting system of their computer. Because they were tracking every CPU cycle that was used by various astronomical groups, and this was amounting to 9 seconds of their CPU time, 9 seconds. But because they were keen to find out why the discrepancy was, they started investigating. They collected all the intelligence they could, the cyber intelligence. They probably didn't use the term cyber intelligence at that time because we hadn't thought about it at that time, but they managed to bring the ring that was operating in Germany, providing CIA information to KGB agents in Russia. He became an instant celebrity. He made a movie. He also wrote a book called The Cuckoo's Egg, how people go and place Trojans and viruses in other people's computers, so like a cuckoo placing their eggs in others' nests. It's a good read, if you can find a copy, published, I think, around 1990. So this was LEARN as we envisaged in 1989. And if I fast forward to 2019, I'm going to skip everything from 96 to 2019. There'll be other speakers who will be much more, who have first-hand knowledge about the developments after I've left Sri Lanka. So they'll be doing the talking about that period. But if I straight go to 2019, we have seen that LEARN has continued to grow. It has grown to cover, as the previous speakers said, connecting almost all universities, higher education institutions, and other institutions, research centers in the country, providing an essential communication service to all the academics, their students, and research scientists. So if you look at a few statistics, we have a total of 77 connections. The bandwidths now range from 5 megabits, hoping to raise to 20 very soon, I was told, to 2 gigabits per second, compared to 64 kilobits per second that we started with in 1989. It also connects, I was told, the 16 Sri Lanka Institute of Advanced Technological Education sites. Who would have thought that Facebook will have 2.5 billion users? If that were a country, that will be the largest country with the largest population in the world. 5 million of that is Sri Lankans. That's 25% of our population. 20 billion devices will be connected to the internet by 2020. 20 billion, that's 3 times the population on Earth, 3 times the human population. IoT industry, the Internet of Things industry, will be US dollars 5 trillion by 2021. And that, if you capture that opportunity for industry, the ICT industry, the IoT industry in Sri Lanka, captures that opportunity, we'll be talking about US dollars 14 billion per capita per year. Cost of cybercrime, on the other hand of the other side of the coin, the cost of cybercrime will be reaching US dollar 6 trillion by 2021. So you see, on the one hand, the productivity increases, the internet contributes, and Sri Lanka can definitely benefit from it. But on the other side of the coin are the hackers and the criminals who are now trying to make easy wealth, and that will cost the world 6 trillion US dollars. Now, there's a saying that if you want total security, cut the cable. Okay? You don't connect to anything. Now, of course, we have come a long way, and I don't think anyone will want to live without online internet access. Okay, so cutting the cable is not a solution. We cannot live in isolation. We cannot isolate any of our computers. They have to be connected. A security providing company to us as an ISP in the UK, their managing director stated recently that the majority of cyber attacks on businesses are indiscriminate, malicious, and that travelers are looking for openings on the net and looking for places where they can attack. They are not necessarily targeted. Okay? They are just hoping to find some network or a device which has some vulnerabilities so that they can attack. But that's only part of the story, because there are targeted attacks. There are targeted attacks mainly on national critical infrastructure. Few examples. In 2010, there was a very famous attack on Iranian nuclear fuel enrichment plant. Now, the lesson here is that the plant was not connected to the internet. It was not connected to the outside world. Now, if it was not connected to the outside world, how did they manage to attack? Now, of course, these days the attackers will not cut the fence. They don't have to do that. What they did was they managed to somehow smuggle the virus or the attacking software, maybe on a USB or on a CD. And it is normal human behavior. If you find something in the car park, somebody has dropped one, you're curious to find out what's in it. So the first thing you go to office is you put it into your computer. Now, of course, this particular virus was designed that it doesn't do anything immediately. It stays dormant. It stays dormant in your PC, and whenever possible, it migrates to another and plants itself in another. And it lays dormant until you find a PLC, that is a programmable logic controller, which controls a bit of hardware. And in this particular case, they were the centrifuges for the uranium or plutonium enrichment. So it takes several days, weeks, months before the virus gets activated. Of course, by that time, the person who puts the USB or the CD into the computer has forgotten about it. Okay? Now, of course, this was one of the very well-publicized cases of nation-state cyber espionage. Recently, in December 2015, a Ukrainian power plant was attacked, and the hackers attacked the power plant twice. Oops. I don't think they're hackers, but it's just did I press the wrong button? Okay, thank you. Not the hackers, guaranteed. In the UK, in 2017, on the 12th of May, the NHS, the National Health Service, their hallmark National Health Service was attacked. And this was hit by a virus called WannaCry. Third of the NHS hospital trusts were completely disabled. 8% of GP practices were disabled. And the same virus around that time hit something like 2 to 300,000 installations globally. Now, loss to the NHS itself is 19,000 patient appointments and 29 million pounds in costs. So that's the loss. Now, of course, another lesson to be learned, systems admins and network admins, the NHS was blamed for using old, out-of-date operating systems, Windows XP. I don't think anyone uses Windows XP in this country, but NHS, for various reasons, continued, and they paid the price because of that. Very recently, March 2019, there was an attack on a aluminum plant in Norway. Again, it was a virus attack, but this time it was on more modern Windows computers. Again, the criminals were able to encrypt most of the data, and they were looking for ransom money. So this was kind of blackmail. Now, with all this happening, especially the security and compromises of security in terms of cybercrime, there's another challenge that we have, that is the internet governance. That is the flip side, because the good governance, the governments have to play a major role. The governments have to play a major role because they have to provide safe, easy access to information and data to the citizens of their countries, including our academics, research students, and staff. But at the same time, we find people abuse the freedom of speech and information we provide. Because on the internet, you have so much freedom to be able to shout out. Because this is a very early cartoon, came from the early days of the internet. The cartoon caption goes, on the internet, nobody knows you are a dog. Okay, so you're completely hidden. Your face is not seen. So therefore, people tend to do various nefarious things, including fake news, hate news, which is rampant, not only in Sri Lanka, it's all over the world. Website defacement. I don't see it quite often, but I hear similar things happening in our country. It's quite rampant again in the rest of the world. Now, of course, when these things happen, even if you agree that there should be freedom of information, freedom of speech, there should be good governance, we still have to take action. So governments are forced to curtail or restrict access. Recently, I heard it in the news when I was flying out of Heathrow yesterday or day before. 4 governments have removed hundreds of Facebook pages because of the content which is not acceptable. Okay. So these things still have to be done by governments at the same time providing good internet governance. I know there are lots, I was speaking to some of my old colleagues and students and so on, and I know that there are at least few of you who are very much involved in providing cybersecurity. They talk about it and so on. So to all of them, I have a message. There's no doubt the internet has brought about many opportunities, but the moment a computer is connected to a network, it opens up lots of opportunities for cyber criminals and hackers, and there's invariably a security threat. So I know our CSOs, the Chief Security Officers, CIOs, the Chief Information Officers, the Chief Security Information Officers, the CSIOs, and everyone working within LEARN, because the LEARN is connected to the outside world. They are doing their best to keep LEARN and other networks safe and their users. But my message is, Sri Lanka has not been a victim of cybercrime or cyber attack. Not because our security is very high, but because cyber criminals have not identified Sri Lanka as a target so far. But that is going to change. We expect our country to grow and develop, and especially with projects like the Colombo port city opening up, big businesses coming, the data becomes valuable. And there's a saying that data is new oil. The actual value of oil in the world came second last year when the value of data became number one. Companies like Google, Microsoft, IBM, Facebook, they collect all your personal data. They collect zillions and zillions of data. Why do they do that? Because there's value in it. And of course, they sell them, they trade them. And because of that, obviously, our country will be valuable for them at some point. And when there's competition, there's always a threat. So my message is, all our security people like CERTs, CIOs, CSOs, you should not be complacent. Users too have to be careful, because not only the corporates, the individuals are also attacked. I'm sure you must have experienced some kind of phishing attempt or virus attack, some kind of attack on you as a person. So individuals have to take responsibility as well. Now, finally, I'd like to thank all those who helped me in numerous ways at the beginning, trying to bring this concept, an idea of building a data communication network for computer communication in Sri Lanka, and of course the people who have served from the time that I left until now to develop it and grow it further. There are too numerous to list, but I think I will fail in my duty if I do not mention the University Grants Commission and the Sri Lanka Inter-University Computing Committee of that UGC, especially late Professor Stanley Kalpage, who was the chairman at the time of the UGC, and late Professor Indratna Balasurya, who was the vice chair of the UGC and the chairman of the Sri Lanka Inter-University Computing Committee at that time. The Computer and Information Technology Council. Again, I'd like to mention late Professor V.K. Samaranayak, who was the chairman at the time that we undertook a lot of the development work, and also late Mr. Rohan Vijayaratna, who served as the chairman after that. University of Moratuwa, especially my then Vice Chancellor, Professor Willie Mendes, who was the force behind me, supporting in every way he could in order to achieve what we wanted to achieve, building this LEARN network. My own students and staff at Moratuwa, who and other volunteers who volunteered to work, building the network and providing services. And I remember Mr. Adams, Mr. Clement Adams, who was my network administrator at that time. We used to go to all universities and research centers, install LEARN Mail, and train people how to use LEARN Mail at the various early stages of LEARN. So I'd like to thank all of them who volunteered. It was not for money. It was just pure commitment to develop this service. So they volunteered. I must thank them for that. Sri Lanka Telecom, our partner from the beginning. Without their support and services, we wouldn't have been able to achieve in the short space of 6 years to bring LEARN from concept to final operation. And I would like to thank not only their management, but also their engineers, especially at that time, Mr. C.B.R. Pereira was the radio engineer who helped us to commission the 3 radio links connecting Moratuwa to Colombo and Open University. and all my colleagues at other universities for believing in us and supporting us. As I said, after a while, after LearnMail became popular, there were pressure groups coming up in all corners, and it is with their support we were able to finally get the UGC to give us the money to set up Learn, the 3 million rupees grant that they give. What I'd like to mention also is the money that Syntech provided, the internet connection from Sri Lanka to the US, connecting Moratuwa through Colombo to the JVNC, the John von Neumann Computer Center in the US, 64 kilobits per second lease line, costing 2 million at that time, was provided by Syntech. Oops, I'm sorry, I keep pressing. So I thank them all. Finally, in my short span of work in Sri Lanka, I managed to achieve, or at least convert 2 of my dreams into reality. Managed to set up a teaching department, computer science engineering, and to somehow get the ball rolling for Learn. I have yet another dream. I'm sorry that the president and the minister is not there. I'd like to build a center of excellence for cyber studies. We came very close to it. I put a proposal in 2017 through the National Development Plan of the Treasury. The government agreed to give 400 million to set up the center and to develop capability within the country, not only to make your network secure, but also to be able to help the CERTs and other professionals in terms of research and further development, also to become a regional center for the region. Countries like Maldives, Mauritius, even Pakistan, they were happy to help us to build this center. As I said, unfortunately, the funds were promised, but we did not get the money. So that is something that I'd like to see happening in the future. So I thank you all for listening, and I wish you a very good and enjoyable evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Professor Induruwa for sharing with all of us the wealth of his experience and expertise, especially in the domain of the development of the academic internet in Sri Lanka.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a couple of more addresses before we wrap up. But before we have the addresses going on, time to add more color and glamour here at this blissful gathering of the 30th anniversary celebration of Learn. Ladies and gentlemen, time for some entertainment. Time to call upon members of Sway.
තුම්බර කඳු වැටියේ කැන්දන් එනවා තුම්බර මැණිකේ මඩකුල සිරිතට අතිකුලයට අද කැන්දන් එනවා තුම්බර මැණිකේ කුලගෙදරින් තුම්බර කඳු වැටියේ අතිකුලයට අද කැන්දන් එනවා තුම්බර මැණිකේ මඩකුල සිරිතට අතිකුලයට අද කැන්දන් එනවා Wanalande hangonu කුලගෙදරි තුම්බර කඳු පැටියේ කැන්දාන් එනවා තුම්බර මැණිකේ මනුකුල සිරිතට පතිකුලයට අත කැන්දාන් එනවා තුම්බර මැණිකේ Pagi koheyan wahak nete wo wahak nete na kahe taruwak pagi dabaran teran hedada samin pelu payak tebumak pagi kohes wahak nete wo wahak nete na kahe taruwak pagi wasanawan hari wasanawan wasanawan hari wasanawan wasanawan hari wasanawan Vasanavan Kulagedari Tumbar Kandu Petiye Kandang Enava Tumbar Manike Manukula Sirita Patikula Kandang Enava Tumbar Manike Kulagedari Tumbar Kandu Petiye Kandang Enava Tumbar Manike Manukula Sirita Vasanavan, Hari Vasanavan, 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 Vasanavan, Hari Vasanavan.
Thank you very much, members of SWAY.
Ladies and gentlemen, up next, it's our privilege to hear from Mr. Yong Hwan Chung, who is the president of TN Cooperation Center. Please allow me now to introduce you to the TN Cooperation Center, or TN Star CC. TN Star CC is a non-profit foundation for managing the Asia Connect project, which is the EU's and 24 Asia Pacific partners' co-funded project. Asia Connect provides a dedicated regional high-capacity and high-quality internet network, which is the Trans-Eurasia Information Network, or TN, for research and education communities across Asia-Pacific and Europe, and leverages e-infrastructures developed for public service project. TN Star CC actively collaborates with other regional R&E network organizations around the world to provide better opportunities for research and education to the TN community. With that introduction to TN Star CC, it's now time to hear from its president. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Yong Hwan Chung.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am Jung Yong-hwan, president of TN Star Cooperation Center. It is my great honor to attend the LEARN celebrating 30th anniversary in Sri Lanka. I would like to deliver my deep gratitude to the Excellency Maitrapala Sirisena, the president of Sri Lanka. The Asia Connect, the success of the team for officially launched at the end of year 2016 with great support from the European Commission and the Asia Connect partners. In Asia Connect, we are focusing on application and research activities using the TAIN network. In Asia, there are increased demands on network capacity, which comes from globally widened collaborations and research activities. TAIN Services is also working hard to upgrade the TAIN network to respond to these demands. The global RNA network trend is entering the 100 Gbps era. We'll also continue to make efforts to improve.
Thank you very much, members of SWAY.
Ladies and gentlemen, up next, it's our privilege to hear from Mr. Yong Hwan Chung, who is the president of TN Cooperation Center. Please allow me now to introduce you to the TN Cooperation Center, or TN Star CC. TN Star CC is a non-profit foundation for managing the Asia Connect project, which is the EU's and 24 Asia Pacific partners co-funded project. Asia Connect provides a dedicated regional high-capacity and high-quality internet network, which is the Trans-Eurasia Information Network, or TN, for research and education communities across Asia Pacific and Europe, and leverages e-infrastructures developed for public service project. TN Star CC actively collaborates with other regional R&E network organizations around the world to provide better opportunities for research and education to the TN community. With that introduction to TN Star CC, it's now time to hear from its president. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Yong Hwan Chung.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am Jung Yong-hwan, president of TN Star Cooperation Center. It is my great honor to attend the LEARN celebrating 30th anniversary in Sri Lanka. I would like to deliver my deep gratitude to the Excellency Maithrapala Sirisena, the president of Sri Lanka. The Asia Connect, the success of the team for officially launched at the end of year 2016 with great support from the European Commission and the Asia Connect partners. In Asia Connect, we are focusing on application and research activities using the TAIN network. In Asia, there are increased demands on network capacity, which comes from globally widened collaborations and research activities. TAIN Services is also working hard to upgrade the TAIN network to respond to these demands. The global R&E network trend is entering the 100 Gbps era. We'll also continue to make efforts to improve TAIN network across the Asian region into 100 Gbps based environment by enhancing the existing infrastructure of the network and obtaining new circuits. Sri Lanka became a TAIN project partner country in 2010 during the third phase of the TAIN project, TAIN 3. Since that time, Sri Lanka has been playing an important role to facilitate global collaboration with the TAIN partners. Currently, LEARN is connected to the global academic network via TAIN. LEARN has 2 connection links for Sri Lanka, India, Mumbai, 1 Gbps, and Sri Lanka, Singapore, 1 Gbps. Also, I am acknowledged that LEARN is actively participating in and supporting other fields such as IT, security, and internet. These activities have and will continue to improve the quality of the life of Sri Lankan, and also contribute to bridging the digital divide, which Asia Connect pursues to achieve. On behalf of TAIN community, I will ask all LEARN community to enhance global collaborations, working with the neighboring countries so that LEARN and the TAIN network and their applications can be benefit to more people in the region. I believe that you will have a meaningful opportunity in your life working together, TAIN Star CC. I look forward to your continuous cooperation and support that you have given to TAIN Star CC and Asia Connect. Once again, congratulations for LEARN's 30th anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Mr. Yong Kwan Chung for sharing your best wishes to Learn on behalf of the TN community. Ladies and gentlemen, up next we're about to witness a special video message, and this video message is by Mr. Paul Wilson, Director General of APNIC, or the Asia Pacific Network Information Center. Mr. Paul Wilson joined APNIC as the Director General in 1998, and APNIC is the regional internet registry for the Asia Pacific region. Let's now take a look at his special message.
Hello friends, I'm Paul Wilson, I'm the head of APNIC, and I'm here to send you congratulations at LEARN on your 30th anniversary, especially to Chairman Professor Gunaratne, the board and the staff of LEARN, and also to my old friend Dr. Gihan Diaz. 30 years seems a long time in internet years, but I've always seen LEARN as a forward-thinking organisation well ahead of its time. LEARN predated the first internet connections in our region, but once you were connected, you quickly became a leader in internet development in the entire Asia Pacific. You've served as the NREN, the National Education and Research Network for Sri Lanka, connecting the entire sector, and you've also been a regional leader in APAN, the Asia Pacific Advanced Network, and in Asia Connect, both of these being critical academic networking initiatives in our region. But as well as this, you've been a leader helping to develop the wider internet, the industry and the infrastructure in Sri Lanka and in the region, with your support for LKNOG, the Sri Lanka Network Operators Group, and SANOG, the South Asia Network Operators Group. These NOGs are professional and educational networks for internet operators and engineers, and they're really critical to a healthy internet in our region. So your support for them has been hugely important. LEARN and APNIC go back a long way, even before you joined APNIC formally in 2008, and I really do hope in the years ahead to continue collaborating together and even more closely on building and maintaining a global, open, stable and secure internet, both in Sri Lanka and in the rest of our region. So happy birthday to you, LEARN.
That was Mr. Paul Wilson, Director General of the APNIC, sharing a special congratulatory message here at this 30th anniversary celebration of Lanka Education and Research Network. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got yet another very special personality joining with us and to share his views, especially on the history and the formation of LEARN as the National Research and Education Network here in Sri Lanka. Is one of the members of the founding team of LEARN. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Gihan Diaz.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And it gives me great pleasure to be here at the 30th anniversary of LEARN. So I think some of my remarks will overlap with Professor Induru's ones. Since I thought I will go back to the inception and some of the activities which were there even before LEARN. So let's go back to 1988. So it's maybe a couple of years before we actually started LEARN. And well, actually, maybe even slightly before that, 1987 would be probably better, where we had a bunch of graduate students, including Dr. Nimal Ratnayaka, Dr. Ranveer Singh, and several of the other people whose names are mentioned here in this book. And we were all graduate students at that time in various countries, and we found something which was quite amazing. This was called email. And at that time, if you wanted to send a message, so some people are smiling, I'm sure they were experiencing that time. If you wanted to send a message to Sri Lanka, you have to write it on something called aerogram, right? And you have to write something on it, usually in very small letters, so that you can put as much information as possible on that one sheet of paper. And then you posted it. And then it took maybe 2 weeks to get to Sri Lanka, and maybe another 2 weeks for you to get a reply back. And then we found that within the USA, UK, and so on, there was this thing called email, which was instantaneous. We sent a message and it got there immediately. And we got a reply within minutes. This was amazing, right? And a group of us, and those days there was no CNN or, of course, there was no internet, in the sense there was no World Wide Web or any of those things. We set up a thing to get news from Sri Lanka, circulate them among ourselves, and we call that SLNet, Sri Lanka Network. Dr. Animal Ratnayaka was one of the pioneers there, as well as several other people. I try to avoid mentioning too many names because then I'll forget one or two and then it would not be so nice. And this led to people talking to each other, people from New York, from California, from UK, from Germany, and so on, talking to each other, Sri Lankans, mostly grad students, over email. And we thought we should have that in Sri Lanka. So in 1988, the beginning of 1988, we managed to set up the first dial-up link called LearnMail between University of Moratuwa, and it was at several places, Stanford University, Purdue University, and so on, to exchange email. This was something fantastic because now, instead of people taking 2 weeks to get a message, now they could get a message within 1 day. So that was the beginning, and we also set up this organization called Lanka Academic Network, or LACNet, to help fund that. So it collected money, we kept it in a bank, we gave it for the phone bills, and so on and so forth. And there was almost no government funding. I think the only government funding we got was 15,000 rupees. Maybe Dr. Prasinduru mentioned that. We got from UGC to get a telephone line. Then we started off in about 1994-95, getting the first 3 connections. And then we had this rudimentary internet, but it was actual working internet. It was so blazingly fast. You wouldn't imagine how fast this was. It ran at 64 kilobits per second. Just to put it in context, today, if you have a 4G connection and you run out of your gigabytes, they limit you to 64 kilobits. Right? And that time, that was a blazing fast connection we had for the entire university system. And we were very happy with that. I mean, we could do so many things. But let's fast forward a bit. By the time it got toward the end of the 1990s, we found that things were getting slow. Why? Because more and more people are using it. It's not that the internet itself slowed down. In fact, we increased the bandwidth from 64 kilobits to 168, to 192, to 256. We kept on increasing it. And forever, people said, internet is slow because more universities were joining, more people are using it, undergraduates, postgraduates, staff members, everybody. And then we had what could be sometimes considered luck, but I think it's more perseverance. We have Professor V.K. Samaranayaka, who all of you have at least heard of, although some of you may not have met him. He had a lot of, I would say, he was respected a lot. And the Swedish International Development Agency came and told him, oh, we are interested in funding this network in Sri Lanka because we see it's growing quite well and it's doing a lot of work. And we have some money which is earmarked for this type of thing. Would you like to apply for a grant? And that's how it actually happened. They came and told us, would you like to apply for a grant? As opposed to us writing a proposal and just hoping it will somehow be accepted. So we wrote a proposal for 2 things. One is to increase the international bandwidth and also to upgrade most of the links within Sri Lanka to the main universities to 2 megabits per second. Again, today, you are getting more speed than that on your phone, right? So this is just to keep things in context, but it was a fantastic 2 megabits per second. We ran it starting from about 1999. And I would say the Swedish people are very, very good. They didn't interfere at all. They gave us some technical advice, but they let us do things. We made our own mistakes. We had to figure out how things worked. We talked to places like Sri Lanka Telecom and Suntel those days. Now it's part of Dialogue. And they also didn't know what the hell we were talking about, since, I mean, they said, why do you want 2 megabit connections? Can't you manage it, some reasonable amount of bandwidth? We said, no, we want 2 megabits. And I think now Learn has 45 gigabits or something, right? So anyway, we set all of this up. The Swedish people are very cooperative. They gave us some assistance and training. They did not interfere. They let us do things the way we wanted. And we were very successful in getting this running. So by 2002, this whole thing was up and running. And by that time, I had been running this both unofficially and then after that officially for around 10 years or a bit more than that. And then I decided, okay, now it is time to hand it over to someone else and let Learn move from the megabit stage onto the next stage, which should be the much higher speeds, much more services. So that's my experience. In the first 10 years of Learn, or maybe first 12 or 13 years. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much to Professor Gihan Dias for giving us a glimpse into the history and formation of Learn as a NREN in Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, up next we're about to hear from Professor Roshan Ragal, who serves as a consultant of Learn Technical and Operations Services since January of 2017. Since undertaking the consultancy, under his leadership, Learn was able to achieve many milestones, one of the most significant being the launching of the Asia Connect project in Sri Lanka. And the Asia Connect project promises to create a magnitude of opportunities to the Learn R&E network community, opening up the community to actively involve themselves regionally as well as reap the benefits by accessing and utilizing project resources and funds. With that introduction, ladies and gentlemen, let's now put our hands together as we welcome on stage Professor Roshan Ragal.
Good evening, everyone. And first of all, before I start talking about the present status of Learn, all this time you were listening to history, what has happened all this time. And the idea is to give you an update on what's happening now, right now. So before doing that, let me take this opportunity to thank all the invitees, the speakers, all of you to being here and helping us reach out to us and reach out to you and explore further opportunities. So let me, let me go into my presentation. It's about the present status of Learn, what we are doing right now, starting 30 years ago. So I start from for the last 10 years. So I'll take just the 10 years, which is like 2009 onwards. In 2009, we formed into a company, limited by guarantee. And as of now, our membership is 46. We have 16 full members, all the state universities and the University Grant Commission, that's 16. And we also have associate and affiliate members. Say for instance, a private research or education institute would like to be a member. They can apply for membership and the board can decide whether to grant membership or not based on the accreditation and other requirements of the institution, and they fall into something like the affiliate members. And then we also have associate members, state institutions, which are doing, which are not state universities, places like research institutions, different types of National Science Foundation and so on, they are part of the associate members. So we have a total of 46 members, and we are governed by a board of directors, the board consists of 16 members, which are our full members, one each. Technically, the board members are supposed to be the vice chancellors. However, in most cases, the vice chancellors are appointing a nominee, and therefore the nominees are representing the board. So that's the full members, all the state universities and the UGC. Associate, affiliate, 15 each. And so before I go into like details and tell about the history, this is just a quick 2 minutes summary of the history. I will not talk, I'll let you read. Right, so that's a quick summary. The idea is to show you, like in the recent years, we have not only exponentially grown in bandwidth, but also we have done various other things like connecting to or having our own presence in Singapore, and also having a connectivity to the National Knowledge Network in India. Both of them are connecting the Asian region in a bigger scale. So those are the things that we have done in the recent past, in addition to increasing the bandwidth from the numbers from megabits to gigabits. Those numbers I'll touch upon once again. So as an internet service provider, so somewhere in 2012, or 11-12, we became an internet service provider. And from then onwards, we can provide internet services to any members or any other institution in the country. And we are part of the internet service providers and paying the internet service provider fees to the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission. And as an internet service provider, we can provide internet, but given that we are an NREN, a National Research and Education Network, we do more than just providing the base internet. So the services we provide in addition to the usual, the internet or the connectivity, some of them are listed here. So we are part of the regional and also the international research and education network, community like APAN, through which we get a lot of training opportunities, interactions, connecting with other people, learning new technologies, and so on. Right? So this you can also see in the history of Sri Lanka's network as well. So like the previous presenters in internet, the network history mentioned, LEARN started the first WAN network in Sri Lanka, or wide area network in Sri Lanka. It was a university network. They should be, right? So being a research and education institute. And also LEARN started the first IPv6 service, even like with the help of obviously the service providers, but our network enabled IPv6 first. So such new things that we try all the time, and therefore we try to get together with the regional community to get such services, and also train our engineers and staff for that. For instance, if you take this year up to this month, for this year we have sent about 20 engineers to get trained in such workshops and training opportunities in the region and also around the world. So we keep on doing this every year through the grants and facilities we get from outside. In addition, we also have our own things like a cloud. We are in the process of setting it up. We have already done most of the groundwork. So things like a LEARN cloud will allow our member institutions to have their data within our network without going and keeping the data somewhere else. And also other services like computing services, we are working on such ideas. So here is a glimpse of what's happening, the current internet or the backbone of our network, in which you are part of. Right? So we have, all the universities are connected through two sets of what we call the VPLS connectivity. One, the main connectivity, which are like fiber connections between universities and our LEARN hub. So that connectivity goes from, so somewhere in the bottom there at the far corner, you can see the member institutions represented, and they are connected through two sets of VPLS connectivity, which are basically fiber connectivity. One, the main connection, which has the smaller institutions like some HND awarding institutions like that. They are taking about 10 Mbps. Larger universities, they take 2 Gbps. And those who are taking larger connectivity, they also have, we have enabled them to take a backup link, meaning a redundant second connectivity. Just in case somewhere in time you have an outage in the main connectivity, you have a backup link, at least providing the essential services. At least have a way of sending a mail to the service provider saying our connection is not working. Right, so that's the idea of having a backup link, so that the two connections are there. And in addition to that, so these like the member networks are connected to the internet through two service providers. One, they are again on the far end on the right top. The one is a 10 Gbps connection to the internet. Another 4 Gbps connection to the internet. So altogether we have a 14 Gbps connectivity to the internet, which are connecting the members to the internet. So internet is one, but internet is not what we are mostly focusing on. We are focusing on the academic and research network, the network connectivity through which we can connect to other similar institution or institution within our country. Right, so to connect to outside institutions, we have a connection here to Singapore, a 5 Gbps connection. And this 5 Gbps connection connects to various other institutions, things like the Asia Connect or the TN network, which is the network of regional NRENs or National Research and Education Networks. And we are also connecting to NKN, like I mentioned a little while ago, the National Knowledge Network of India. Plus, we are also connecting to things like the Singapore's NREN plus Internet 2, which is the one in the US. And also we are connecting to a node in Google, like Singapore, a Google node, through which we are getting a lot of Google traffic or served to our members. So that's a very brief picture of what's happening as of now. So in total, we have about 20 Gbps band. In fact, I just forgot to mention the Lanka government network. We are also connected to the Lanka government network. Their current project is called LGN2. We are connected to that as well. So in total, we have about 20 Gbps connectivity outside, and the bandwidth there is distributed among all our members and connections. So I already mentioned the number of members we have, which is 45. So they are listed here as well once again. So this is the main connectivity around the country, where we are present. We have a lot of institutions in Colombo, and a few, the larger the circle, more number of institutions. The backup link, the plan is to set up these. Not all of them are done as of now, but they'll be done in a couple of months' time. We already have started and done a few of them. Here is a summary. So there are some institutions, like I mentioned, have 2 Gbps connection, those 2 universities. And the lowest bandwidth is 10 Mbps, which is some places like the Sri Lanka, the HND Institute, like SLIAT. And in total, we have 45 members, but some members taking multiple connection, and therefore we have 77 connections. So in total, we have 77 live connections shared or given to 45 members. So all of these are fiber connections, and also those who are having larger bandwidth above 300 MB, we also give a 100 M backup link, and also those who are having above 1G, we give a larger backup link. So that's how the summary goes. So LEARN as an NREN, I already mentioned this a little. We are also connected within the region. By the way, this diagram is taken from the TN map. The chairman of TN Star CC or the president of TN Star CC is here. So they are mostly working on maintaining this connectivity, getting grants, helping countries through various grants, and making sure this network is run. Not just the network is run. Right now, it's not just about a network. It's more than the network. It's more about how you utilize the network to do better research and education. So in that sense, this diagram is imposed on top of the world map. So this is basically the Asian region, and that's why it's called the Asia Connect project. And it's connected to Europe on one side, and on the other side, obviously Japan, and then from Japan and all that to the US. So you can see, like, for instance, Sri Lanka is somewhere in the middle of the map, which is denoted by LK. And we are connected to, in 2 sites, one to India and the other one to Singapore. And for instance, India is connected to, again, Singapore and Europe, and so on. And so that's the backbone we are in. And technically, this whole backbone network is dedicated for academic and research activity. For instance, somewhere in Singapore, you have a high-performance computing center or a supercomputing center, and we want to do some data analytics. We want to send some data across to Singapore. We don't have to use our usual commodity internet. We can use these special connections which are dedicated for research and education and get these things done faster, more reliable, and so on. So that's the idea of this network in a glimpse, but I can keep on talking about it for days if needed. Right, so that's the idea. So that's the whole network, how things are connected. And recently, this year, the TN community celebrated something we did, and I thought of bringing that in here as well. We have set up what we call this Asia-Pacific Europe ring, a ring connecting the Asia region to the Europe. Right, so how it works is we already had this connectivity from Amsterdam to Tokyo, from there to Hong Kong to Singapore, and even Singapore to London. But the idea here is this is a 100G link, so 100 gigabits per second connectivity. And so this whole ring is connected through 100G. So you can see, like, the idea is, let's say from Singapore, if you want to send some data to London or Amsterdam, it goes through either the link from Singapore to London, or it can go through Hong Kong, Tokyo to Amsterdam, or Singapore, Tokyo to Amsterdam, and different links. So if, let's say, these cables, they get damaged sometimes. They are undersea cables, they get damaged, and if one is not functioning for a while, we can use the other one, and so on. So that's the importance of having a ring. And so here is one we recently achieved. And through this, we have connectivity. In fact, with this Asia-Pacific Europe ring, we now have around the world ring. So now, say for instance, Tokyo to US, there are again 100G links, in fact, larger ones, and so on. So we have academic and research network which is connecting all around the world with at least 100G connectivity. And this particular contract is for 15 years, and so it's a long-term investment. And part of the money for this is coming from the Asia Connect project, others are coming from other members. So we are part of all this. Right, so in terms of network details, maybe I'll not go into it much, but so we are providing, so our network as of now, the quality of service is reasonably good compared to earlier days, mainly due to the way how network is run, and also the service providers we use and their service availability and others. So I have numbers, I'll just keep them, not go into detail. But like I earlier mentioned, the idea of the present research and education network is not just to provide a backbone connectivity. So backbone connectivity these days are assumed to be there. Yes, we are working on, so the community is working on things like providing faster connectivity, 100G around the globe and so on, or even more. But we shouldn't stop there. We should, now the main focus is to engage the academics and researchers to make use of this network to do more. Do research, do teaching, do like different type of remote teaching and all sort of different things you can think of using such network. For instance, a long time back, countries like Japan have started Japan and South Korea, they have started using this sort of network for teaching surgeons or doing remote operations and so on. Right? So the telemedicine operations, all that things are already happening in such places. Right? So we want to go there. We want to at least support our researchers and academics to use this network, the one we are providing, not just to browse and access the usual commodity internet, but also to go beyond and do more. Go beyond and use more services, the things that we are trying to bring to the community. So such services, so the first list there is just the network usual services. And our keynote speaker was talking about security services. We started providing a few. In fact, what I have put here is a comparison between different national research and education network in the region and how we are doing compared to them in terms of services provided. So the countries that are listed here, the first one is LEARN, Sri Lanka, obviously. VINA, that's Vietnam. SINGAREN, Singapore. Malaysia. NKN, India. BDREN is Bangladesh. So the list compares these countries and the services we provide to our community. By the way, we also have to keep in mind these numbers, these bars are just ticks. We are saying, okay, let's say we say a particular service is provided, we put a tick. How good the service is, how much we are putting our effort on, those things are not reflected on the graph, and therefore you have to keep that also in mind. Because you can see some of these things, we have a lot of ticks for LEARN. You might assume all of them are good in the LEARN network, not in the others. We have started and trying a lot of things. That's the idea. So we are not stable and doing all these services to the best of our ability. We are trying, and we need your support and continuous encouragement to get it done. So more services in terms of hosting, co-location, things like I mentioned about cloud services and so on. So they are listed on that side. Here, other type of services. So recently we got, through this Asia Connect project, we got some grants in collaboration with the Bangladesh National Research and Education Network to do video conferencing or to get high-grade video conferencing facility to all our members. So, and we have sent posters, we have had a few sessions, and we are in the process of going to institutions and presenting how such services can be used, things like video conferencing facilities can be used for education and research. And recently, our network manager went to Europe for a training on how these things are done there. So we are working on such avenues and trying to do more and more of these services these days. That's where our focus is on, not just the bare internet, the network connectivity. So that's basically what I wanted to share and what we have. And thank you for listening. And thank you.
A series of comprehensive, thorough presentations to give you all an understanding of how the concept came into force and how the concept got implemented and the evaluation and now the current status. Thank you very much, all the speakers, especially to the consultant, Learn, Professor Roshan Ragal. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that note, time to wrap up the formalities of this 30th anniversary celebration of Lanka Education and Research Network. In doing so, to say a very big thank you to certain individuals, teams, organizations, and everyone who contributed towards the grand success of this initiative, would like to call upon to make the closing remarks and to propose the vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Secretary of Learn, Mr. Dinesh Gunawardena.
Honorable Chairman of Learn, members of Learn Board of Directors, Vice Chancellors, faculty and department heads, and other head of institutes, and other most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. First, I would like to thank His Excellency Maithripala Sirisena, the President of Sri Lanka, for accepting our invitation and has kindly consented to present the function as the chief guest. And then I would like to thank Honorable Minister Rauf Hakim and other higher authorities present here. I, on behalf of Lanka Education and Research Network, wish to extend a very hearty thank to all of you present here, and to all the speakers and founders of Learn for gracing your important work and sharing with us your findings and opinions. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Professor Abhay Induruwa, aptly known as the father of Internet in Sri Lanka, and the co-founder of Learn, for his explanation speech on the history and the development of academic Internet in Sri Lanka. And we really appreciate that you took all the trouble to travel all the way to Sri Lanka from UK to take part in this event. Your words are an absolute inspiration, all of us. Thank you, sir. And then I like to express our sincere thanks to Mr. Yong Hwan Chung, President of 10 Cooperation Center, for giving an excellent coverage on Enron role in the context of international. Again, we would like to thank you to coming all the way from your country to join with us to celebrate the Learn 30th anniversary celebration today. We also would like to acknowledge our gratitude to Professor Gihan Dias for exposing the history and the formation of Learn as an Enron in Sri Lanka. As saying goes, all good things comes to an end. Most beautiful moments always seems to accelerate and slip beyond one's grasp just when you want to hold on to them for as long as possible. However, having said this, will be falling my duty if I do not acknowledge here the guidance, support, and encouragement and our given all throughout by Learn chairperson of Professor Gunaratna and our Learn board of directors consisting of 15 members, which are Professor Hewa Gamage from University of Colombo, Dr. Kadirevelu from University of Jaffna, Mr. Syed Sabit from Eastern University, Dr. Dayananda from University of Moratuwa, Dr. Veerasinghe from University of Kelaniya, Dr. Bandaranaike from Peradeniya University, Mr. Jayamanna from Open University, Dr. Karunaratne from Rajarata University, Mr. Lawrence Suheva from University of Ruhuna, Dr. Vasantapriyan from Sabaragamu University, Professor Najim from Southeastern University, Mr. Munusingha from University of Jayawardhanapura, Professor Ratnasekara from Uvavelassa University, Dr. Vidhanagama from Wayamba University, Ms. Samanasinghe from University Visual of Performing Arts, and Mr. Ekanayaka, our Learn Company Secretary. They have kept us ignited at Learn and challenged and guided us to deliver unto the optimum. Last but not least, wish to highlight that an event this nature cannot happen overnight. The wheel started rolling months ago. Also, it requires motivation, planning, and a bird eye for details. Although we have a relative small staff hold, which regardless for those need family, privileged to be vibrant, dynamic, multi-skilled, and above all committed team of very motivated individuals. And it is with great pride that I wish to state they are dedicated colleagues at Learn who have contributed to make this ceremony a success. Team of Learn, I cannot thank you all for all your involvement and willingness to take on such daunting task whilst abiding in the advice and willingness to take on such direction given and accomplishing and required task, even extending beyond your comfort zones, which exceeding all known expectations. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very multi-talented, motivated, and dedicated colleagues of Learn who know their job and are result-oriented. Please give a big hand of applause to our Learn team. Specifically for our consultant, Professor Roshan Ragel, who directed and motivated us to accomplish different tasks, and Operation Manager Rajiva Abegunaratne, who have actively involved and worked under pressure in organizing this event, and our accounts assistant, Ms. Kaushalya Viraji Vikramasinghe, and our network team, our network manager is Mr. Seniviratne Herath, Mr. Tilina Patirana, and Mr. Dhammika Lalantha, who gave their tremendous support in making arrangement for this event. A big thank you goes out to you, team. Your continue to support is inspire all of us. I cannot thank everyone enough of their involvement and their willingness to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. So I take this opportunity to thank each of everyone for their contribution and enormous cooperation in organizing this event. Also, I would like to thank our Learn technical community who work with our network team and look after their network in their institute, and who work in collaboration with Learn to develop, progress, and safeguard Learn network in their institute. Thank you all. I would like to borrow a quote from Steve Jobs, which needs to no introduction in this audience, I believe, which I have tuned. Rather innovated, I would say it suits these settings. Your time is limited. We don't waste it living someone else's dream. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything is secondary. Now, I invite you all to join with us the last session, as in the agenda, which comes as the social events, and also I believe the dinner buffet would have been served by now. And thank you so much for your kind attention, and thanks for being patient audience. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you very much to Mr. Dinesh for all those warm words of appreciation expressed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we now draw close to the end of our formal proceedings, we do have one final resplendent entertainment act to keep you all enthralled as we mark the 30th anniversary celebrations here in style. And to perform this final act, we're now ready to welcome on stage the dancers from Sway. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that elegant performance, we now draw to a conclusion our formal proceedings right here at the 30th anniversary celebrations of LEARN. And we do hope it's been an enlightening evening, a meaningful evening for all of you, as we've all discovered more about how LEARN impacts research and education in Sri Lanka in significant and enriching ways. On that note, we invite all of you to continue to join us now for dinner and fellowship as we make the joy of this evening complete. Thank you all for being with us here this evening, and I wish you a great day ahead. Thank you and have a nice day.